Hi angels, it's Haley Reese, and today's video is another one of those videos that I'm really super excited to bring to you guys, because for those of you who have been on my channel for a while, you know that I used to do this series called Most Haunted, where I basically explored some of the most haunted objects and items and things in the world and told you guys the history behind them and what they're said to do. So today I am bringing this series back, and we are going to talk about a chair that is said to, the chair doesn't kill you, but it is said that if you are to sit in this chair, or anybody who sits in this chair, you will, or they will, turn up dead. The whole concept of this chair is fascinating and strange and creepy and eerie and just all of the above, so I'm really excited to get into this with you guys. But before I do, I want to let you guys know about one of the many Reesemas giveaways. This one is really important to me because it's one where I get to actually talk to and have a one-on-one connection with some of you, and that is you can win either a FaceTime call or a phone call with me, which I think I'm more excited about than any of you are, because I love getting to know you guys, and to do this holiday season is going to bring me so much joy and so much happiness. So how do you enter this? Let's get into that. Basically, to enter this giveaway, all that you have to do is be subscribed to my YouTube channel, have your post notifications turned on, and be following me on all of my social media. Then send an email to this email right here, which will also be in the description box, with your name, where you're from, a phone number or email to contact you at, and why you would love to have a FaceTime or phone call with me. You can choose if you'd rather it be a FaceTime call or a phone call, and let me know in the email which you prefer, and just tell me why it would mean a lot to you, because I'm really excited to talk to some of you. I love you guys more than you'll ever know or imagine, and to be able to look at you or talk to you one-on-one and just tell you guys how much you mean to me and really get to know you and have you guys get to know me would mean the world. So if you guys are interested in winning that, all you have to do is what I just let you know, and I will be calling and FaceTiming you from now until the end of the month. So all month up until the end of Reesemas, I'm going to be FaceTiming and calling as many of you as I can. But without further ado, let's get into this, because this is one creepy legend, true story, concept, haunted object, and I just want to get into it. So let's get into this. So this cursed chair of death is located in England, and it is said to kill anybody who sits in it. Anybody who sits in this chair turns up dead, like either immediately after leaving or shortly after, or they're just never seen again, which is so creepy if you think about it. But there's a story behind it as to why the chair is like this, and it kind of could make sense. So in 1702, a convicted murderer by the name of Thomas Busby was about to be hung for committing a murder. So he had actually, I believe, murdered his father-in-law, if I'm not mistaken, but not a lot of sources get into that detail. They just say he was convicted of a murder and he was put onto death row. He was about to be hung for what he had done. Now, he had a favorite pub, and in this pub, he actually had a favorite chair. And so his final request when he was receiving his final meal right before he was about to be hung was that he could eat his final meal in his chair in his favorite pub. And they granted him this wish. He got to eat this meal in his favorite chair in the atmosphere that he had grown to love throughout the years, and he basically declared that that was his spot and that was his chair. Now when he finished his meal and he was about to move on and be hung, he said, "May sudden death come to anyone who dare sit in my chair." And he yelled this aloud inside the pub for all those around to hear, and he went out and he was hung. Now this chair remained in the pub for centuries, and all of those in the town and a lot of the locals had heard about the fact that he had said this before he died, and a lot of people were actually daring other people to go and sit in this chair and to test to see if it would be true. Now around the time of World War II, the locals started to notice that soldiers that would coincidentally or purposely sit in this particular chair would never be seen to return from the war. And many of people who sat in this chair would die a sudden, unexplainable, unusual death. In 1967, 2 Royal Air Force pilots sat in the chair only to crash their truck into a tree just moments after they left, and they both died. In 1970, a Mason decided to test out this chair theory, only to actually wind up dying that same afternoon by falling into a hole at his job site. Like I said, you guys, these are unusual, strange deaths, and they always seem to be following somebody testing or accidentally sitting in this particular chair. A year after that, somebody who actually works on roofs sat on the chair, left to go work on a roof, and fell through the roof and died that same day. The roof had just miraculously collapsed while he was working on it, and actually he fell down to his death. And a lot of people started to raise their eyebrows at this point in time, because it just seemed to be one death after another after people sat in this one particular chair. It is even said that the pub's cleaning lady was cleaning one time, tripped and fell onto the chair. Could you imagine? And she shortly after died of a brain tumor that she didn't even know about prior to this and had no symptoms of. But right after, within that little span of time, she died of this brain tumor. The list continued to go on and on. Coincidentally, somebody would sit in this chair, and shortly after, within that same afternoon most times, people were actually turning up dead in the most, like I've mentioned, unusual ways. I mean, look at what we've just talked about. The one woman all of a sudden has a brain tumor. One man falls through a roof, another falls into a hole at his job site. 2 men crash a truck into a tree, which I mean can happen, but it just seems like there's such strange ways to die moments after getting into this one particular chair that Thomas had cursed. So eventually the pub owner moves the chair into the basement, hoping that whatever's going on will stop, and whether or not it was coincidental or just like happened to just be correlating with people's deaths, he didn't want any more of it to happen. So he moved the chair into the basement, but unfortunately, supposedly a delivery man had decided to take a short rest on the chair while delivering packages down to the basement, and he died in a car accident that same exact day. I read somewhere that there are supposedly nearly 70 people who had died around this time frame after sitting in this chair. And it was just so strange to people that this was happening when Thomas himself had actually declared that anybody who sat in his chair after his death would die. And I mean, the interesting thing is, he didn't just say that they would die. He said they would die a sudden death, which 70 people actually had after sitting in this one particular chair. I mean, if that is a coincidence, that is the strangest of coincidences I've probably ever heard in my whole entire life. So eventually, come 1972, the pub owner decided to donate the chair to a museum because he was tired of feeling responsible for owning this particular chair and having all of these deaths come in attachment to the chair. Although it could never be proven, he was never under any sort of microscope for it being his fault or him allowing this to happen. It could not be proven that it was because of the chair, but I mean, he felt a significant amount of guilt knowing what had been said by Thomas Busby, and all of a sudden anybody who sits in that chair is turning up dead. So he donated the chair to a museum, and they actually display the chair to this day up 5 feet in the air, hung on the wall, so that nobody is able to physically, accidentally, or purposely sit on this chair and fall to a sudden fate. Now, a lot of people actually say that this is just an urban legend, but I've also read up on a ton of people who have went and visited the chair and seen it hanging 5 feet above the ground and claim that it is a true story. So I mean, the chair does exist. It is hung in a local museum. The story, be it an urban legend, a coincidence, or whatever you want to call it, I mean, is believed by many of people, and I could understand this happening. I mean, I think strange things happen all across the world almost every single day, But if this were to be solely a coincidence, I just find that nearly 70 deaths within the same day of sitting on this chair is a really, really unusual, peculiar, and frightening coincidence. I mean, he was a murderer. He clearly was a very angry person. You must be in order to murder somebody. And at the end of the day, there are negative spirits that can form negative attachments to items. And if he had this attachment to this chair and he wanted to continue that out into the afterlife, he could have wound up stuck to this chair and he could have wound up causing harm to these people. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time an object has caused harm to people. We've talked about Annabelle and how anybody who goes and taunts her winds up killed that same day. So in this spirit world of haunted objects, it wouldn't be the first time that an object could have a negative attachment towards it that could harm people. But I mean, it is pretty sinister to think that innocent people would sit in the chair and wind up finding their death later that afternoon, even if they didn't intend any disrespect towards Thomas Busby and his chair. What do you guys think of this? Do you think it's just an urban legend? Do you think that it is just a coincidence? Do you think it's all just made up and people have blown it out of proportion and the chair just stands in a museum or hangs in a museum as kind of a symbolism of that urban legend? I don't know. Have you guys heard of this before? This is my personal first time hearing about this when I was researching different haunted objects, and I found the story to be rather interesting. So I wanted to come on here and share it with you guys. I really look forward to reading what you guys think of this and what you thought of this little story, urban legend, haunted object. The whole entire thing kind of has me baffled and wondering what on earth actually went on. On that note, if you want a phone call or FaceTime call from me, please don't forget to follow the steps of the giveaway and definitely make sure to send in your emails to me letting me know where you're from so I know your time zone and can properly call you at a good hour, and also letting me know why you would love to have a call with me, because my list of reasons that I would love to have a call with you guys just goes on and on and on. So I'm really looking forward to that. And on that note, if you're new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. I post a ton of videos, so I don't want you to miss when I upload. And please give this video a big thumbs up. It makes my heart super happy when you guys do that, even though I always say that. It is the truth, so please do that. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, I love you.